Oh, hold on. That was a weak clap. We're now live with episode 41. Thomas Lindgren, returning guest.
Hello.
Second time on the show.
Second time.
How's it feel?
Thanks for having me. Feels great.
Feels great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've had a long sports drought. We haven't had football, but you know what? Preseason just recently started.
Oh, goody.
But before we get to that, there's a lot of players in the realm of sports that wear jersey number. And the episode we're on is number 41.
Okay.
And what I like to do with the show is talk about a person who has the number and the impact they've had. So Byron Maxwell, number 41.
Is he 41 or 31?
He was number 41.
Okay.
He was part of the Legion of Boom, but that is not who we're talking about today. We are talking about
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara also.
Is that who we're
Wow,
talking
you're
about? Okay, those are the only 41s I know.
You sounded really
That's it. Truly.
You're sounding really informed right now.
Yeah, I have the list of topics in front of me. So
Yeah.
no, that's a lie. I don't actually have the list of topics. They're around here somewhere.
Born on June 19th, 1978. We got the 2007 NBA MVP.
I see.
We also have the 2011, no, vice versa, NBA champ in 2011, MVP in 2007.
Oh, I see.
And his name is Dirk Nowitzki, or
Dirk
Nowitzki.
Yeah.
Dirk, a lot of people bring up and say Dirk is a pretty great player. But the thing is, some people like to hate on my guy Dirk. What do you think about Dirk?
Well,
sorry to interrupt your water
that's
drink
okay.
there.
I gotta be eating healthier anyway. Dirk's pretty cool. I don't feel like I could be a real authority because I never watched him in his prime. I only got to see him, in his waning years, of course. But just the respect that the rest of the NBA has for him as a player, that kind of tells me all I need to know about him.
I think my guy Dirk might need to hang it up. I think he is hanging it up after this year. But, Dirk Nowitzki beat the Miami Heat, and a lot of people are like, well, that's worth more than KD's too. It could be very true. But, we're not here to just talk about Dirk Nowitzki. Welcome once again. We are 2.5 minutes in. I am your host, Dominic Joseph, joined by my guy, Thomas Lindgren, longtime friend from middle school, actually. From people who haven't heard, he was also on DJP. If you guys want to hear more about Thomas, go check that out. But let's get right into it because sports is changing right now. There's a lot of great things, and I know yours more as well informed as anybody else right now. Andrew Luck is now out.
Retired.
Andrew Luck is retired.
He has. Yeah.
And coming from a guy who drafted him in fantasy, what are your thoughts?
Oh, did I draft him in fantasy?
You did.
Oh, yeah, I did draft him in fantasy with like a third rounder.
Yeah.
Something like that in our 2 QB league.
Yeah. And like 3
well,
flexes.
He somebody was saying, was like, is this the most shocking NFL news since
Calvin?
Yeah. And I would say probably.
Yeah.
And even Calvin was, like as great of a player as he was. That's what I was kind of saying earlier. Andrew Luck kind of has, like, his retirement has such a impact on the rest of the league. Like that kind of sends waves out like throughout the whole NFL,
Yeah.
Because I think the Colts were, kind of picked by many, preseason favorites to be, pretty good this year, make a deep run into the playoffs, and now that's kind of all flipped on its head, and that whole division too is, completely changed now. So,
do you think at the expense of Andrew Luck, they're screwed, or do you think with the talent they have? I was actually talking to Nate about this. They could actually still have a good team.
Yeah, and that's people who say, "Oh, they need to start tanking."
Yeah.
At this point, I think that's a little bit silly. I mean, their defense is really good, and the team that they sort of built around Andrew Luck is really good too. That's where I think Jacoby Brissett's going to be fine because he has a lot of weapons at his disposal, a fantastic offensive line. So I think the Colts will be okay, but it's just kind of a sobering situation for the whole league, for a player that young and that good in his prime, essentially, to just be like, yep, I'm hanging it up, I'm walking away from football. And for all of the people who love the game of football and love to watch the game and everything, it's tough to see, because all football does is bring us enjoyment, right? And so when we see a player like that say, "Yep, football is just it's bringing me down," that's kind of tough to hear as a fan, So
yeah, because we look at it as, wow, that would be the greatest thing to do, play professional football. But you look at these, and you even look at college athletes who do it, all day, and they train all day, and they practice all day, and then they play these games. They get hurt, and then it's like, wow, it's like, was that even fun? Was it worth my time and stress? Right. For some players, I bet you train their whole life and get to the NFL and get hurt that first drive. And it's like, there's a lot of stuff going on. AFC South has just been getting hit with the bugs because Lamar Miller recently just got hurt too. And I look at, Houston, Melvin Gordon's on free agent right now, or technically he's looking to be traded. What if Melvin Gordon went to Houston?
Yeah, that's something people have been kind of talking about. I feel like that's more of just
a job.
Yeah, and because there's a role in Houston, people are like, "Oh, Melvin Gordon," but it's like they've been saying that. They said that when Zeke was holding out. They said Melvin Gordon could go to the Cowboys too, and it's kind of just I feel like whoever needs a running back, that's where Melvin Gordon's going to go. I don't know what Melvin Gordon's going to do. All I know is the Chargers don't really need him. So,
as said from Phillip Rivers,
he doesn't have a whole lot of leverage in that situation, but I hope he comes back because he's fun to watch. So.
He's one of those guys I really like. Yeah, he's fun to watch, but will he be in a Chargers uniform at all, you think? You think he'll hold out?
I do think he'll hold out. I think he's going to cave. That's my prediction. I think Melvin Gordon's going to cave because unlike the Ezekiel Elliott situation, he just, like I said earlier, he has no leverage.
Yeah.
It's like Zeke is kind of the centerpiece of that offense, and Melvin Gordon has been hurt before, and they've shown that they can still run the football without him, whereas the Cowboys, maybe not so much. So
yeah, because then they have to put the win or the chance to win in Dak's hands, and I don't think they really want to do that quite yet.
Not if they're smart.
Not if they're smart. But, speaking of Dallas, I have Dallas written down in one of our notes. How far do they go with a healthy Zeke? Healthy Dak. Healthy Amari.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Jason Witten.
Right, Jason Witten's back. That's the deal breaker right there. No. That's interesting. Because so much of the talk this offseason has been about Dak and Zeke and their contracts and all that. Nobody's really talking about the Cowboys as a whole. Oh man, they've put together a pretty good defense, and most of those guys are back, right? You know, all of those key pieces on defense, and for that reason alone, I think they'll surely make the playoffs again. I don't know how deep they'll go, especially without Zeke, because, again, put the ball in Dak's hands. You say he's got to win the game for us. I'm not sure he's the type of quarterback who can do that. That being said, he has quite an offense around him too. So they could be maybe a little bit of a dark horse.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably I can't say they're going to win that division because Philly's in there. Philly's a great team. Carson Wentz, this is the year. He's healthy. He's coming into a good team, and it's his time. Is it Carson Wentz's time?
I sure hope so.
It's like people have been doubting it. Honestly, I've been one of those doubters, man.
Yeah. I kind of base my evaluation of Carson Wentz off of the year he was the league MVP for like 6 weeks. I don't remember how many weeks before he tore his ACL, but holy crap, that guy was
balling.
Yeah, he was so good that year just to begin the season. And I know players go on runs like that, and they may never, come back to that level again. But he was ridiculously good in that year. And
that's before Alshon, wasn't it?
It might have been
a couple games before
Alshon
he got there.
Might have been there too. But I mean, either way, he was just. I always think of this one play. I think it was against the Seahawks where basically his whole pocket collapses, right? There's 8 Seahawk defenders in the backfield, and somehow he squirts out of the front of the line and then completes like a 50-yard pass to, I want to say it was Aguilar or something, but it was insane.
He finds a way to get open a lot.
Yeah. Aguilar?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he really does.
I think he's a pretty underrated wide receiver. So, I hope this is Carson Wentz's year. I mean, he's kind of been bit by the injury bug lately.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, kind of lead into a lot of doubters. But I think he's probably the premier quarterback in the NFC East right now when he's healthy. So.
Yeah, because you got, Case Keenum, Dak Prescott, and Carson Wentz, and then Daniel Jones.
Yeah, or Eli Manning, yeah.
Eli Manning. Segue another NFC East thing I want to talk to you about, because I know you like to cheer for the Giants as well.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it, and I think Daniel Jones isn't doing terrible. I think he's doing a great job. Is he better? Is he good enough to take over Eli's spot?
I think it'll probably be like a Brown situation last year.
Yeah.
Remember how Tyrod Taylor was named the starter for 4 weeks,
yeah.
and then came out, Baker steps in, he's a starter from then on. That's what I imagine is going to happen with the Giants, because I mean Daniel Jones, he hasn't just been good in the preseason. I mean he's been lights out, and I know the preseason is not the best indicator. Frankly, Eli's played pretty good in the preseason too, but I do think eventually that he will replace Eli Manning, if not in the middle of this season, the next year for sure. And Daniel Jones kind of a guy that I find myself rooting for just because of all the hate that he got, right? Like, I was as shocked as everybody else when they took him with 6th overall, right? But that doesn't mean you just need to heap all this hate on the poor guy. Kid's 21 years old. He's just out there. He didn't choose to get picked 6th overall. I'm sure he's happy about it, but yeah, I'm rooting for him. So
yeah, and then Baker Mayfield came out and joked about it, but it was taken out of context. I did later find out that. But, you look at a guy like Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones are two totally different guys, two totally different teams. And, being a Baltimore Raven fan, I have to hear a lot of this Browns hype, and I know you probably hear just as much as Browns hype as I do. But I'm sick of it. And I understand they have Jarvis Landry, Odell, Njoku, Chubb. They'll get Kareem Hunt week 10. Baker Mayfield, and it's just exhausting at this point, and I'm sick of it.
Right. I mean, from my thing with the Browns is however many, like, the only real off-season acquisitions they had were
Odell
Beckham Jr., and then they'll get Kareem Hunt back after
week 12.
Week 12.
Or week 11 or 10. It's 10, 11, or 12.
Okay. So you get another receiver. That's fine. Their offense was fine last year.
It wasn't terrible.
I don't think they had trouble driving the football down the field. Okay, so Odell obviously is going to make that better. But, like, other than that, and this is 7-8-1 football team last year, by the way. Okay, under 500. Yeah, they had one time. It's whatever. Okay, it blows my mind a little bit. I think their defense is what's going to win them football games. Contrary to all the Baker Odell hype. That being said, they could honestly make a deep run at the playoffs this year, but it's like you said, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen more hype for 7-9 football team, and I think it's just the trendy thing right now is they were so bad a couple years ago, and now that they're returning to prominence a little bit, everybody's, I'm such a Browns fan. It's like, where all these Browns fans come from? Where'd you guys all come from? Were you rooting for them 4 years ago?
They're in their holes.
Yeah, maybe because they were 0-12, you were rooting for them. I was rooting for them too, 0-16.
Everyone's like, I'm them and Madden all the time. I'm like, because they're the worst team. That's why you were the Browns.
Yeah, jeez.
So, and then, with the NFL right now, too, I'm looking at, right now I got the rankings according to Bleacher Report. The top 5 teams in the NFL right now, according to Bleacher Report, we have New England.
Okay.
The New Orleans Saints, Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Rams, and Philadelphia Eagles. All teams who did make the playoffs last year. And actually, all 5 of these teams actually made a pretty good run.
Yeah.
2 of the teams, New England was in the Super Bowl, and the Rams were in the Super Bowl. So, New England wins the Super Bowl, and they're still number 1 in the power rankings.
Yeah, that sounds fair to me.
Yeah.
I'm sick of hearing about them because we got to hear about them every year, but it's fair.
You think they deserve 1?
Who would you put number 1?
Who would you put at 1?
The Patriots? Well, like I said, it's fair. I
Yeah.
mean, Super Bowl champs, right? And they didn't really lose a ton of guys.
No.
But I'd probably put the Saints at 1. Purely because of bias, because I don't like New England. I mean, I think the Saints would have won the Super Bowl last year had the Saints made it instead of the Rams. So, and same thing, they didn't really lose anybody last year. I mean, Mark Ingram's gone, but I think it comes down to, do you put your faith in Drew Brees or Tom Brady? And again, purely because of bias, I put my faith in Drew Brees. So
You would put, if it was a game-winning drive, you put it in Drew Brees' hands?
hell yeah, I'd put it in Drew Brees' hands.
Wow.
If it was Tom Brady and James White's hands, then maybe I'd pick Tom Brady and James White's hands. You know the guy who carried him to the Super Bowl 50, what was that? It was the Falcons one, 51,
He's
52,
in!
52. You mean Tom Brady's 4 touchdown passes that were all dump-off passes to James White? You and I could have thrown those passes. Yeah.
Well, he knew. He audibled. You know, I probably, if it was between the two, because I hate Tom Brady, but I think I would still put it in Tom Brady's hands, unfortunately. Actually, no. I would not put it in Tom Brady's hands. I'd put it in Drew Brees' hands. But if it was anybody in the league, I'd put it in the real 12's hands.
You're absolutely right.
Aaron Rodgers' hands.
Aaron Rodgers is one.
Yeah,
for sure.
if it was up to me. But the quarterback I'd least want, you know what? Okay, this is something I want to ask you too. The quarterback you'd least want to have on a drive. Mine, and it has to be a starting quarterback. Game-winning drive.
Okay.
It has to be a starter.
Okay.
Case fucking Keenum. It's a hot take, I know,
That's
but
who you'd least want to have?
I would put I put Blake Bortles on his downward slope above him.
Over Case Keenum, huh?
I put Sam Bradford above Case Keenum.
Ooh.
I'd also put Tavares Jackson over Case Keenum.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Case Keenum.
Now you're getting into it. So why what's got you upset with Case Keenum here?
I just think that he was bailed out in Minnesota, and I think that he could ball out in Washington. And if he could definitely, you know what, I'll eat my shoe if he proves me wrong.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for him to prove me wrong, because I kind of like his game a little bit, but when you have players like they did in Minnesota, and you're I feel like he's kind of like a Matt Stafford to me, where I feel like he just lucked out and he can just lob it up.
Yeah, well, Kirk Cousins came in and did the same thing the next
Kirk
year.
did.
So, and Kirk's probably a better quarterback anyway, but I mean, he did the same thing. So, yeah, quarterback I'd least want to have. I don't know if it'd be Case Keenum, but oh man, maybe does Ryan Fitzpatrick count? Does Fitzmagic count?
Is he a starter? I mean, I think
he's supposed to be a starter in Miami. So,
do a guy who started more than at least 12.
Okay. Oh no, you're not gonna like this one.
No. You're gonna say? Don't say. Okay. I mean, hey, say whatever you gotta say, bro.
You know, if it was 2012,
it's a different story.
I'd say differently. But these days, I have to go the other way.
You're an ass.
I have to say, the current starter for the Denver Broncos, Mr. Joe Flacco,
Vincent Flacco.
Yeah.
Okay,
which is sad.
Elaborate.
He's got the physical tools. Actually, I'm gonna change my answer. I apologize.
Wait, did you switch
change my answer?
Is your switch on?
Did I do that?
No, I think
so.
you're good. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I've been screwing it up.
You're changing your
all
mind.
day, so I am. I'm changing my mind. I'd like to formally redact my statement that Joe Flacco is the quarterback I'd least want to have on a game-winning drive, and I would like to put it in the hands of a quarterback from a team that I'm a bit of a fan of. That would be Mr. Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. And we've talked about him a little bit
You were
recently.
hyping him the other day.
Well, I just hype what everybody else hypes, which is he's a physical specimen. He's 6'5", 250. He's Cam Newton, basically, but in a really stupid person's body. That's just his decision-making is appalling. And the only reason that he's not getting trashed on this year for being picked 7th overall, you want to trash Daniel Jones, trash Josh Allen for getting picked 7th overall. The only reason that he's not getting trashed on this year was because when he couldn't figure out which receiver to throw to, an interception, he decided to take off and run. And again, the dude runs like a gazelle because he's huge.
Yeah.
He's got 8-yard strides, right? And so his rushing ability kind of saved him a little bit. But the dude is about as accurate as you and me with the football. So.
Very not. Dude, I couldn't imagine, like, I think a lot of people, like, overlook the quarterback position and the position. Like, they're like, oh, I could do that. And, like, I know that was a joke. But, like, when I, like, think about it, like, when we even just do intramural flag, you have 2 seconds to throw the ball. And that's just on a good play. Like, these guys got Khalil Mack coming at them, bro. I couldn't imagine throwing it that quick.
Yeah, no way. There's a reason why they're the highest paid players in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the most important position. It's like guys like Richard Sherman who like to bash on paying their quarterbacks too much, Russell Wilson, right? But it's like their impact is, again, we talk about there are players in the NFL that can win games by themselves, right? Andrew Luck was one of those players. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, those are all quarterbacks that can take over a football game. They can just decide, you know what, I'm going to win this football game, and they will. And even across other sports, you don't necessarily see that, importance maybe with a pitcher in baseball or
I would say in basketball, though.
Yeah, there's some players in basketball as well. But, that's kind of a more intimate, smaller amount of players type of thing. But, it's like when you got 22 guys running around a football field and one guy goes, you know what, I'm going to take over this game. Guys on defense can do that too. But
Khalil Mack.
Yeah, basically, like what I'm just getting at here is the quarterback position is important because it's hard. It's really hard you have to be lightning fast, with your decisions, and then you got to have the arm strength to get it down there and all that good stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely not something I'd be able to do.
So with that, another thing I wanted to ask too. A lot of people like to talk about the best team in the league, but I want to talk about the worst team in the league.
I like it.
The last thing I want to do is recycle what everyone else is saying. So, who is the worst team this year and why? It could be a hot take. You could be serious. Who is it?
I got to think about this one for a second.
All right, I'm going to go first then.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the worst team, so when I say this, I mean they're going to be the worst going into the year. I'm going to go as far as saying the Detroit Lions. And this is clearly biased because I don't really like the Lions. Actually, no. I'm going to go Miami. I know I just changed my mind twice. Miami has not a lot really going on over there right now. They could get Jadeveon Clowney, I heard. But Fitzpatrick is starting right now for them? Isn't that who's starting for them?
Yeah, I believe so.
No, they're not.
Yeah, either way.
I don't.
Rosen or Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, like, dude,
better.
Maybe. But I'm going Miami. I think Miami is going to be the worst team in the league.
That
this
was
year.
my initial thought.
Yeah.
Was the Miami Dolphins. I feel like that's a pretty popular pick, but I feel like their defense could surprise some people. I think Rashad Jones might be the most underrated strong safety in the NFL. I think he's really good, and he's been on such a bad defense for so long that people don't really think about him. But then now you've got him. You've got Minkah Fitzpatrick there, who I think is going to take a big step in year 2. I think that they have Xavier Howard.
Yeah, you're actually making me feel like I picked the wrong team.
The secondary. Well, no, I mean the offense is pitiful. It's awful. And again, no matter who's throwing the football, I think Rosen's a little better than people think. That's kind of my other thing. But
he got thrown to the Wolves in Arizona.
Yeah,
dude.
I think that's a good segue there. I think Arizona is going to be the worst team again this year. And it's not a slight against Kyler Murray or even Cliff Kingsbury. I think that the air raid is going to work in the NFL, but it's going to take a year or two. It's like we see in preseason, Kyler Murray's doing his little clap thing, and the refs are calling it, right? And the NFL there's no rule in the rule book about it, right? Because it's a new offense. Can
you explain that?
Thing. So Kyler Murray, it's like a snap count thing.
Yeah.
And watch college football, they do it all the time. Jake Browning at UW used to do it before every play. I think Gardner Minshew at WSU used to do it too. But it's basically it's a hard count type of thing where you clap and then 1,000, and then they snap the ball, that kind of a thing, right? Well, in preseason, the refs were sometimes calling it as a false start or like a illegal signal or something like that. And Kingsbury was going up to the refs and he's like, "What do you want him to do? This is how the offense works." And so I think the NFL told officials, they were like, "Oh, just go use your own discretion." And it's like, that's going to be a recipe for disaster. It's like if some ref's feeling upset one day and he goes, "No, that's a false start." So anyway, I think the air raid will work in the NFL one day, and like it already has been kind of instituted in a few offenses, but the Cardinals are going all in on the air raid right now, and if preseason is any indication, the Cardinals they're gonna have a tough time. They need to start leaning on David Johnson more, and their defense is still pretty good, but I think Kingsbury's gonna be stubborn, and so again, I think it'll work out eventually. But this year, I think they're gonna be the worst team.
For those people who don't know, Kingsbury is the head coach, correct?
Yeah.
And you're as familiar as with air raid as anybody I would know, and there's teams in the NFL that are already kind of running it.
Yeah.
New England.
That's true.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have. I'm not putting Kyler Murray at their level of Tom Brady and Drew Brees, but what other teams I know that that does Indianapolis runs the air raid, don't they?
Some argue that they do. It's kind of nobody in the NFL officially runs the air raid right now, but Mike Leach will tell you that that's a lie because you got the Saints and the Patriots. They run kind of a version of the air raid, right? Like in New England, like James White's their primary running back, and he just catches 100 passes every year, right? Very similar to the air raid that we see in college. The Rams are similar. The Rams run a similar air raid where you've got 3 receivers involved, Cooks, Kupp, and Woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it, I feel like people mistake the air raid as, you throw it 70 times a game and you never run it. And that's not necessarily true. In college, we sometimes see that, but like in the NFL, they've been running air raid offenses for a while now. People talk about how the NFL is a passing league now, and it's true because pick up big chunks of yard and you score really fast. That's the idea, anyway. And so there's been some sort of version of air raid in the NFL for a while now. I just think, kind of going back to the Cardinals, Kingsbury's air raid it's a lot harsher, a lot more defined, right? He's saying we're not going to run the football, and NFL defenses are licking their chops right now.
They're like, all right,
so yeah,
we'll take it. And then to segue into NCAA, we were actually talking about this earlier with players like in the SEC and compared to players like in the Pac-12. You look at teams that are bred to just run the ball. And, there's some teams that are like that in the NFL, you could say, because there's Seattle, you got Baltimore who runs really heavy, Dallas runs really heavy. But you look at it in the SEC, it's we're going to run up the gut because we have bigger guys than you and better recruits than you. Is that annoying to you as a college football fan, or do you just say that's just the recruitment and because coming from a WSU fan and you're like, oh, we got a team against the SEC, but it's almost, I don't want to say unfair, but at the I don't know, big word, at the point of it, when does it become a problem that they're just that much better in that formation then you could stop?
I don't know that it's a problem. It's definitely different than the NFL because you look at the NFL and 32 teams, and any given Sunday one can beat the worst team in the NFL, could beat the best team in the NFL. Whereas college, you have 126 FBS teams, Division I teams, right? And there's no way in hell that 126 is going to beat big Bama or Clemson any given Saturday. That's just not how it is. And like you said, it's the recruits, right, is the big difference. And it is frustrating as a West Coast football fan because your opportunities to, have success with your football teams and the conference that you're rooting for, they're few and far between, right? Oregon against Ohio State a couple years ago, they made the national championship game. They got waxed in the national championship game. Zeke Elliott ran for 4 touchdowns, so it didn't really work out. But it's kind of like you said, we got bigger and better players than you, so we're going to run it up the guts. Easiest thing, that's the easiest form of football, right? And you're not going to be able to stop it. 2 or 3 years ago, UW met Big Bama in the first round of the playoff, right? And same thing. Big Bo Scarborough started rumbling through the UW defense, and the Pac-12 linebackers they're too small, right? You can't tackle these guys. So it's a little bit frustrating. But it's just, it's kind of the state of college football, and you take your wins where you can get them. You take your upsets because they do come. It's not impossible.
They do.
Where people say, a Pac-12 team's never going to. It's not true. It happens. It's rare. So there's actually this weekend Auburn's playing Oregon.
Wow.
I think Oregon's coming in to.
Are they?
Yeah, should be a big week 1 matchup. Auburn, I think it's this weekend.
It's in Oregon.
Is it Oregon?
No, because we're in New Mexico, aren't we?
No, we're here. What WSU's playing here?
It is home?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it is it?
WSU?
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, okay, yeah, so then, the Oregon's home against Auburn.
Okay. Well, there you go. That makes things a little bit different. But anyway, that's a big week 1.
That is.
Week 1 test. I wish it wasn't Oregon that we're going in to play Auburn, because whoever wins that football game, the rest of the year, everybody's going to go, ooh, the Pac-12, the SEC is better than the Pac, and that kind of thing.
Oh, so you're saying if Auburn wins, everyone's going to start hyping and,
correct,
butchering Pac-12.
Well, Oregon is the preseason favorite to win the Pac this year, I believe. So,
what?
Yeah. So, because Herbert's going to be number 1 overall pick, and
guys whose name rhymes with Sherbert.
Justin Herbert came to Pullman last year, if you remember.
Took an L.
Took a fat L, yeah. I think they went down 21-0, 28-0 in the first half, and they sort of came back, but it was never really a game. Yeah.
So there's some other big games I want to ask you about. So we got Utah against BYU. I think that's gonna be a decent game. We got Wisconsin.
The Holy War, that's called.
Is that's what they call it?
Utah BYU.
Yeah.
The Holy War.
Yeah, because I know those games are always really big.
Mm-hmm.
We got Wisconsin versus. Oh, that's USF, not UCF.
Oh, did you think it was UCF?
I thought it was UCF, the national champs.
Of course, the national champs.
National champs. Oh, yeah. I think we talked about this last episode. For people who don't know who UCF is, they were a team that went undefeated against some who's.
High school team. Bunch of Division II teams.
And they wanted a spot in the tournament, but they didn't get it. But anyway, actually, I thought, oh, yeah, here it is right here. We got Louisville, Notre Dame. That was the big game I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
We got Notre Dame, who's 9, and Louisville's unranked. But is Louisville nothing after Lamar Jackson's gone now? Would you say? Or do you think they have a good team to compete with?
Put it to you this way. If I think they have a chance at beating Notre Dame this weekend, no. No way. Not a chance. I'd take the over. I'd take Notre Dame straight up on that one if you're in Vegas right now. No, not happening.
And then the one prior to that, sorry to cut you off there, we got Houston at, I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma. But there is a guy on Houston I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
And it's their quarterback.
Okay.
King.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on him? Eric King.
He's good. And that's interesting because the WSU Cougars are going to play Houston in the Texans Stadium in a couple weeks.
Is that this year? I thought it was in a couple years.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that bid was this year.
Yeah, so that should be a good one. So Houston has a pretty dynamic offense as well. But I haven't watched their quarterback play a ton. I don't know a ton about them.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that they're kind of known for their offense as well, and so that's why I think this Cougars versus Cougars matchup is going to be really good. So, but I can't really speak to King himself, how good I think he is. So,
All right, and then I want to go over the top 25 with you, because I know you know I'm not gonna give you every one of them. I'm just gonna give you ones that I think, which ones I think kind of fit and ones don't kind of fit. Just coming from a kind of college fan now.
Yeah.
We got Clemson at 1. I do you think they should be 1 over Bama?
Same reason as the Patriots. They won last year.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
And then you got Bama at 2, and then Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio,
Okay.
which I think are quality.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go down to the 15 spot. We got Penn State, Auburn, and UCF.
Okay.
Does UCF belong at 17?
Here's the thing with the preseason AP poll and the top 25 poll in general, especially the preseason one.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
The preseason poll. It's all based on last year and program pedigree, right? Which is why. Can you tell me where Oregon's ranked on that list?
Oregon is ranked 11th.
11th, at one shy outside the top 10. Wow. Once again, program pedigree, and they think they have a Heisman winner at quarterback in Justin Herbert. No, the preseason poll, nobody knows anything, and it will change drastically from week 1 to week 2, because say Oregon goes into Auburn this weekend and gets waxed,
Then they'll be like, get them out.
they could be out or drop down to the 25th or whatever. UCF is hard because we don't know. They're an independent team. Are they an independent team or are they ACC? I don't remember. But they don't have a very strong schedule every year.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of the trick with college football. 126 FBS teams. If they don't play any good ones, how are we supposed to know how good you are, right? And so that's kind of the thing. I think UCF could be okay. I'm not sure if Mackenzie Milton's coming back. I know he's incredible.
Yeah.
Their quarterback who had he had a terrible injury a couple years ago. So I don't know if he's coming back. If he is, then that's a great spot for him, I think. So.
And then last one. I know you got a Wazoo shirt on and I got a Wazoo hat on.
Yes, sir.
But 23 for Washington State. How higher, lower?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised we were ranked at all.
Yeah.
Usually we're not. I don't think we've been ranked in the preseason poll in a few years. And so I think that's pretty fair. I think that's I think we've finally earned a little bit of respect from the voters. The big thing for everybody around the country is Minshew left, right? So who's going to replace Minshew? And nobody's really looking at the team that they've built around whoever's playing quarterback. It could be any of those guys, and they're going to do fine, I think. Our offensive line is stacked. Our receiving core is one of the best in the country. Our defense is going to be fine. So I think 23 is about right. I think we're going to move up a couple spots before we get dropped again, but who knows? Only time will tell.
Before we move on to the next thing, there was a ranking released a while ago of the top receiving cores in the NCAA.
Yeah.
And you said you go as far as saying Wazoo probably has, if not the best, top 3.
Yeah, it definitely is top 3. It's hard because, again, players playing against certain corners and, in certain conferences and that kind of a thing. But it's just... It's almost as if the top receiving cores, they almost mirror the top 25. How do you figure that, right? It's like you just said, Bama, Clemson, Oklahoma, those are all 3 top 5 receiving cores, right? And it's like, again, they get the best recruits and everything, but I think when all is said and done, I think WSU has a top 3 or 4 receiving core in the country. Just because of its depth, right? I mean, we've got, I think a couple players that are going to play in the NFL, and behind them, players that are just as good. So it'll be interesting to see. I know Alabama is hyping up. They got like 2 guys. Jerry Judy's one of them. I don't know what the other guy's name is, and I don't know. They look like a typical Alabama receiver to me. Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper. It's like they're good route runners, but they're not very big. So I don't really know what everybody's freaking out about. But
Yeah, so NCAA, it's a big thing. I'm excited for it this year, especially cheering for Wazoo. It's gonna be a little bit different this year, being there this year.
That's right.
Really pumped this year for them. And UW and WSU. Hopefully, it's a good game this year, but we don't know yet, and who knows what it's gonna be. But to segue into another sport, one sport that we have been familiar with in the last year, and I think this is going to be a great one, we got the NBA. And to start that off, I want to start with, I'm sick and tired of Kobe Bryant. I get he's a lot of people's favorite players, and I know a lot of people who are listening to this are probably, how? It's like he retired, and I thought that was going to be it, but I just still keep seeing him, and I'm done with, like, the analyzations, and I'm butthurt.
Well, wasn't there just a headline up somewhere that him and Shaq are arguing again?
That's what it was. It's like from like the interview.
Well, I'm going to echo your sentiment there. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares that him and Shaq are fighting? Shaq fights with everybody. That's Shaq's MO. Shaq's fighting with somebody, new guy every week. I agree, and I think it's probably he's retired. He's trying to stay relevant. He's got his little detail show right on there, and
trying to stay.
There's just these diehard Kobe fans, but
they're probably screaming right now. All these Kobe fans listening, just skipping, probably turning it off.
Yeah. Well, and again, like I don't really feel like an authority on because I never watched him in his really prime years, Showtime Lakers and everything, but I don't know. Yeah, people treat him like LeBron.
He's not.
Or MJ.
He's not.
Doesn't even belong in the same conversation. I feel like we're destroying their legacy by just talking about it in the same sentences. LeBron and Jordan.
So you would put who are you, LeBron or MJ guy?
LeBron.
I'm LeBron too. And a lot of people get really mad at me for that.
Well, it comes down to, and this is with all sports, it comes down to how much do you value championship rings.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to in almost every sport. If you think Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, you obviously think Kobe Bryant's probably a little higher than I do. Same thing, championships. But all I've got to say about that is you need a team to win a championship, not just one player. So not one player wins a championship.
Yeah.
So, and LeBron's been on some pretty bad teams. So.
I don't want to hear Kobe had it bad any years because he had Shaquille O'Neal, arguably the most dominant player of all time on his team. And I'm not taking away from Kobe because Kobe did a lot of great things. I think he averaged more points than him and everything. But, dude, are you kidding me? Shaquille O'Neal on your team?
He dropped 60 in his last game, though. Did you see that?
Oh,
he dropped 60.
Didn't he shoot it 60 times?
Didn't the defenders pull off him every time? You mean?
No. No, but in the NBA, there's Jeremy Lin is actually going to play in China now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Jeremy Lin came out a couple weeks ago. I said this on a couple episodes ago on Weekly Take. The NBA is giving up on me.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. Well, whose fault is that, Jeremy? I'm sorry, bro. That's his fault.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the point guard position is just it's gotten so good.
Yeah.
Right? It's gotten so elevated that he's one of those players, he needs the ball to score. In Isaiah Thomas, if you will. He needs the ball to be good, right? And all of a sudden the coach goes, we're not going to give you the ball 40 times a game. And he goes, the NBA is giving up. It's just, well, and he'll be fine. He'll go to China. I bet he'll have some good success over there. And
good for the guy.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him. But Isaiah Thomas, could you elaborate on Isaiah Thomas? Do you like Isaiah Thomas? Are you an Isaiah Thomas fan?
A good friend of mine once told me Isaiah Thomas is better than Klay Thompson. I believe this friend of mine was a UW fan. You think he was a UW fan? Yeah.
I think he might have been.
He might have been a UW fan, right? So, as a WSU fan and a person with a brain, I said no. I said Klay Thompson's definitely better than Isaiah Thomas. This was, of course, during Isaiah Thomas's
hype
MVP season. If you want to call it that, again, getting the ball 50 times and going for 23 every night. I don't know if I'd call that MVP season, but again, I digress. How many points has he averaged the last 2 seasons? 3 seasons?
How many points did he average on Cleveland?
Cleveland? The Lakers.
I think as much
the
as
Nuggets.
I think as much as you and I.
As much as you and me. That's right. Absolutely correct.
Isaiah Thomas, yeah, he's one of those guys. I'm just, bro. We started doing the Browns treatment to him. He was so bad we were cheering for him to go in. Remember, it went in Denver. We were like, "Where's IT? Where's IT?"
Yeah. It was like a zoo
He's-
animal. It was like, where is he? He's hiding behind the bench. Where is he? We found him. A little short guy. There he is. I'm
Wait,
taller than that
Are we
guy.
as tall as Isaiah Thomas? How tall is Isaiah Thomas?
5'10".
I mean, how tall is Isaiah Thomas?
Well, he's probably 5'10" in shoes.
Let's see here. How tall is Isaiah? Isaiah Thomas is 5'9". I am as tall as Isaiah Thomas. I'm nowhere near as talented.
Oh no, I'm not saying I could guard him or anything.
No.
That's no. Don't get me wrong there. He's not better than Klay Thompson. That's all. That's my only point here.
Are you glad Klay Thompson stayed in Golden State?
Even a little bit.
Or did you want him to leave a little bit?
Man, that's kind of a tough question because I really like him. Obviously, he came from WSU,
Yeah.
shooter, whatever, and I kind of wanted him to go only because I feel like I root hard for the team he went to,
Yeah.
right? Because
And you'd
it's
have a
hard
team.
to root for the Golden State Warriors. I feel like a Patriots fan almost, right? To root for the Golden State Warriors, right? Be like, I'm a Warriors fan. Everybody's like, kiss my ass, right? So anyway, for that reason, I kind of wanted him to leave. But at the same time, like, I don't think he's the type of player to shoulder the load. Like, I think he'd be okay, but I think he's got a very defined role, obviously, and it's working for him. It's working for the Warriors, and
Why change it?
why change it exactly? So
I think it would have been cool to see him go to Milwaukee with Giannis.
I agree.
I think that would have been
would've
fucking
been
cool.
too. Yeah.
Dude, Milwaukee is actually they didn't get any worse.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of saying it depends on how you view Chris Middleton, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you view him as a perennial all-star, then they're going to because they paid him that money.
They did, dude.
So
And you know who's
yeah.
And you know whose contract's coming up.
Oh boy.
Number 34
Yes,
is
sir. That's going to be a big one.
It's gonna be. I think he'll probably be the most paid, highest paid player.
I have a question for you, sir.
Mhm.
Did you see James Harden's comments recently on
No.
Giannis Antetokounmpo winning the MVP?
No.
He said, because James Harden said something about he believes that 18-19 was his best year.
Giannis?
James Harden.
Oh, he
that
believes
his
those were
year,
okay.
right. And I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of,
Butthurt.
yeah, it was something along the lines of the NBA writers, they take a narrative and they run with it.
Yeah.
And so he's basically saying Giannis won for the narrative, right? So that's my question to you. How do you feel about
Do I
that?
believe in the narratives for the MVP?
Yeah, and do you think that Giannis was more deserving than James Harden?
Yeah, I do believe Giannis is more deserving of the MVP. Harden is probably a hair below him, and I hate to say that, but Giannis is up and down the court, offensive, defense. And I'm not saying James Harden doesn't play defense, because he does, and a lot of people like to give him that bad rep. But I do believe in the narrative. Giannis had a way prettier narrative than he did, and I believe if James Harden had I don't know, if he went through some crisis or something, maybe they would have picked his narrative.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's always been like that, but dude, look at the past MVP winners. They've all had a narrative.
They all have a story.
Russell Westbrook had he was the triple-double guy,
Right.
and then, didn't James Harden win it last year?
He did.
And then he's like, oh, he's had triple-doubles 2 years in a row. And then
Mhm.
Giannis, he's the new guy from out of a country.
Right.
And I also really think that the NBA is getting really international.
It's true.
You got Giannis winning the MVP. You
Mhm.
got Pascal Siakam winning Most Improved Player.
It's true.
And I think sixth man of the year went to the guy from the Clippers, Lou Williams. But he's
rookie.
rookie of the year went to Luka, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, the NBA is becoming really national. And then we had a team who's from Canada win our title.
That's true.
The NBA is getting really international. It's cool to see.
That is cool.
But I bet some people are just the same reason I'm excited for it is some people are probably butthurt about it. But basketball is slowly becoming a bigger sport to the world, I think.
Well, and I feel like it's it's more of it's always kind of been more of an international thing than something like football or maybe not on the level that soccer is, but I agree. I think it's cool to see something, other than soccer that, the whole world is kind of paying attention to maybe, or at least a little bit more than we pay attention to football. So.
Oh, you play sports?
Soccer.
So no?
So no? So nothing? No sports?
All
I
right.
play soccer.
I think that's a good note to end on, but there's actually one more thing. Dwight Howard is a Laker. Woo. Again, this has been episode 41 with Thomas Lindgren. Is there anything you want to let people know that what you're up to, plug your social, what have you been doing?
Just hanging out,
Living.
I'm just waiting for football to start.
I mean, I believe I'm there with you too.
Been in the dog days of summer, so.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, again, this is Thomas Lindgren. Be sure to follow him on his social medias. Is it Thomas Lindgren 7?
Yes, sir.
Insta too? That's your Twitter.
Insta is just Thomas Lindgren _.
All right, go give him a follow. Don't forget that underscore now. That is a key part in finding the weekly take guest. You might be able to find a verification badge next to his and I's name after this episode.
It's coming soon.
We're still waiting on our verifications, but again, episode 41 of the Weekly Take podcast. Thomas Lindgren, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.